I'm going to show you how I would do question 16. It requires you to use some algebra. So reading carefully, we know that angle OLT, which in fact is this, OLT, is congruent to TLF. So OLT is congruent to TLF. And in fact, I'm going to mark them up. It's a good idea to always mark up your diagram. So I'm putting those little symbols there that tell us that these two angles are going to be congruent right here, these two. The other thing we know is that they are congruent, but we were told the measure angle OLT is 7x plus 3. And the measure of angle TLF is 6x plus 7. Well, if these angles are congruent, congruent means they have the same measure. So I can write an equation. I can write 7x plus 3 equals 6x plus 7. So I'm just using what we know about our diagram, what things that we have been told, to write an equation. And then this is easy to solve. I won't solve it because I know you know how to solve that. So I do want you to solve that for homework. If we let's look at question 17. Now for question 17, we are given the measure of angle TLF is 27 degrees. So there we have a number. And we also know the measure angle TLF is x squared minus 6x. Well, what we have here is two different ways of representing TLF. So this is representing TLF in terms of x. That's the number. But TLF is the same angle. So what we're saying is that the measure is equal to 27. So there's my equation. So I know my equation is going to be x squared minus 6x is equal to 27. And then you will notice this is a quadratic equation because we have an x squared. Quadratic equations have to be solved by the zero product property, so we need to get a 0 in there. So I'm going to subtract 27 from both sides, so I'm left with x squared minus 6x minus 27 is equal to 0. And then we need to factor that. And I know that I can't factor anything out of each term, so I'm going to try to factor it into two binomials. And what I know is whatever I have in this spot and this spot has got to multiply together and give us x squared. Well, that can only be x and x. And what I have in this spot and this spot has got to multiply together and give me negative 27. So I'm going to try 9 and 3. And I know one of those has got to be negative. I'm guessing it's going to be negative 9 and positive 3, because if I FOIL this out, then I know that's going to give me x squared. Positive 3x, negative 9x do combine to give me negative 6x. So now my next situation is I'm multiplying this thing by this thing and getting a 0. Well, one of those things has got to be 0. So x minus 9 is 0, or x plus 3 is going to be equal to 0, which gives me x is equal to 9, or x is equal to negative 3. And we had talked about how in geometry you need to go back and check your work. So if I plug I'm going back to my expression, I was told measure angle TLF is equal to x squared minus 6x. And if I plug a 9 into that, that's going to give me 81 minus 9 times 6 is 54. And 81 minus 54 is going to give me 27. If I plug a negative 3 in, that gives me 9 plus 18, which is 27. So in fact, both of those work.